Nick, is James Harden the best scorer since Wilt?
No, he's second best scorer since Wilt. Wilt, Jordan, Harden.
Rob G admits that James Harden is a better scorer than Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant is a better scorer.
Then James Harden?
Yeah.
Yeah. All day, every day.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Kobe Bryant had 81 points in a game.
James Harden unguardable.
He's in a category as a best scorer since Jordan. It's because of all of the different ways he does it. Nobody can put the ball in a basket and control a game that way, the way Jordan could. Kobe maybe in that class a little bit. I think Harden's even on a different level than that.
You serious?
So I'm starting off this video with a headache because of all the BS clips I just put at the beginning of this video. If you ask NBA fans and analysts who's the greater scorer between James Harden and Kobe Bryant, most will still give the nod to Kobe, but the narrative is growing that Harden is the greatest scorer since Michael Jordan. In fact, it's grown strong enough to the point where I believe this video is extremely necessary. I also want to make it clear before I dig into the meat of this video that this video is not meant as a slight towards James Harden. As far as skills in isolation basketball, he's easily one of the greatest to ever do it. What the intent of this video is to put Kobe's scoring prowess in proper context because apparently it's something that many have already forgotten. Makes sense? Let's get into it. First off, let's start by comparing the most basic aspects of these two scores. James Harden for his career is averaging 24.9 points per game on 44.4% shooting. His single greatest scoring season is this current season, where he's averaging 38.3 points per game and his career high is 61 points. Kobe Bryant had a career average of 25 points per game on 44.7% shooting. His single greatest scoring season was the 2005-2006 season, where he averaged 35.4 points per game and his career high is 81 points. I should mention that the career numbers can be a little bit misleading, and you can't simply look at the career numbers and come to a conclusion of who the greatest scorer is because the overall numbers don't tell the whole story. For example, James Harden spent his early years as the sixth man for the OKC Thunder. He had the talent to be a starter, but he wasn't given the minutes and the touches, which strongly affects his career averages. Same goes for Kobe, as he was playing very few minutes in his first couple seasons since Del Harris was more of an old school head coach that wanted to give more minutes to his veteran players. Kobe also spent his final 4 years recovering from a torn Achilles, a torn rotator cuff in his shoulder, and a fractured knee, all at an old age. This obviously strongly affected his averages and percentages, so essentially his final 4 years tanked his career numbers. Because of details like these, career numbers don't give us an accurate indication of how good these players were when they were really good. So let's dig into even deeper details. Kobe has 122 40-point games in his career, which is the third most in NBA history. Harden currently has 90 40-point games, which is the fourth most ever. Kobe has 26 50-point games and Harden has 23. Kobe has 6 60-point games, Harden has 4, and of course, Kobe stands alone at 80-point games. But now, this is where things start heavily swaying in Kobe's favor and why it's ridiculous that people dare to call Harden a greater scorer. When it comes to their stats and achievements, at first glance they appear to have comparable numbers, but one thing Kobe had on Harden was explosiveness. Kobe would get on hot streaks like no other guard in NBA history. Once he got going, he was almost impossible to stop. Kobe has the highest streak of consecutive 40-point games at 9 by anybody not named Wilt Chamberlain. Get used to hearing that, by the way, because when it came to scoring, Wilt was something else. Kobe also has the highest streak of 50-point games by anybody not named Wilt at 4 straight games, and 2 of those were 60-point games. Despite the fact that Harden averaged almost twice as many 3-point attempts as Kobe did over their careers, Kobe has a higher career high in 3-pointers made at 12 compared to Harden's 10. That game, Kobe made 12 threes, included 9 straight makes, and the 12 threes was an NBA record for years before Steph Curry and Klay Thompson eventually broke it. Kobe Bryant and James Harden both have a game where they scored 50 points through only 3 quarters of basketball, but Kobe did this 5 times. Of the 5 games where Kobe scored 50 points through 3 quarters, in only one of those did he play in the 4th quarter, and of course, that became the 81-point game. Speaking of the 81-point game, one of the astonishing and forgotten aspects of that game was the fact that Kobe scored only 26 points in the first half. That means that he scored 55 points in the second half alone. James Harden's career high is 61 points in a full game, and Kobe was just 6 points short of that in a half. Just a month before the 81-point game, Kobe scored 62 in only 3 quarters against the Dallas Mavericks. Harden has his own 60 and 3 quarters game, but that game came against the Atlanta Hawks, the worst team in the NBA. But that's not the case for Kobe. The Mavericks he torched for 62 and 3 quarters were an elite defensive team that season and a squad that went on to the NBA Finals that year. Not only that, but Kobe single-handedly outscored the entire Mavericks team 62-61 through 3 quarters. Harden wasn't close to doing that in his 60 game. In the history of the NBA, no player has ever outscored the opposing team single-handedly. Wilt Chamberlain wasn't even close to doing that when he scored 100 points. If Kobe had played in the fourth quarter of that game, he would have had a realistic shot at being the only player to ever do it. This brings me to one of my strongest points about the Kobe versus Harden comparison, and that's the difference in eras. When Kobe was putting up numbers comparable to the modern-day Harden numbers, Kobe was doing it at a time where points were harder to score and high offensive numbers were less common. During Kobe's best scoring season, teams were averaging just 97 points per game. Now in today's modern NBA, teams are averaging 110.4 points per game. That is a massive advantage for modern-day scorers. In the last 2 seasons of the NBA, teams as a whole are averaging the most points per game since the days Wilt Chamberlain played. Offensive production in the modern NBA is inflated, just like the offensive numbers were inflated in Wilt's playing days due to more possessions, pace of play, differences in modern officiating, and variables in the way defense is played. In the modern NBA, you also have the aspect of more three-point shots. With that being said, some fans might even say that modern offensive numbers are up because players today are more skilled and shooters are more efficient than ever, but that's actually not the case. If you look at the league averages between Harden's best scoring season and Kobe's best scoring season, you'll see that the league field goal percentage was about the same, and the league three-point percentage was slightly better in Kobe's season. The difference is the 10 more possessions per game in Harden's day and over twice as many three-point attempts. Despite what many claim, the numbers indicate that players are not more efficient than ever. The league is just constructed in a way that now produces more points for everyone. Tracy McGrady recently said that a prime Kobe Bryant would easily average over 40 points in today's NBA, and I have to agree with him. If Kobe was capable of averaging 35.4 points when the league scoring was significantly lower and less than half as many three-point attempts were taken, then I have to think that those advantages would easily push him into the 40s. Points are points, I understand this. But when you talk about who is the greater scorer, versatility has to come in somewhere, right? Harden is currently shooting 12.5 free throws a game and nearly 14 three-pointers a game. The free throw attempts are well higher than Kobe ever averaged, and they actually rival prime Shaquille O'Neal free throw attempts. You know, the monster in the middle who had the hack-a-Shaq strategy constantly sending him to the free throw line? Also, Harden's current three-point attempts are more than twice as many as Kobe's average in his prime. Just look at the shot charts of these two players, and by just a quick glance at each, you can tell which player is a diverse scorer who gets his buckets in a variety of ways, and which player essentially just spams shots that are working for him. Again, James Harden is great. He's one of the greatest scorers of all time, without a doubt. But if you ask me which player's offensive game is more of a product of the era he played in, well then the answer is obvious. I'll take the scorer, who I can confidently say would be just as good in any era of basketball. Whether the focus of the game is on the perimeter, interior, mid-range, physicality, transition, or spacing, Kobe Bryant is going to dominate offensively because he's arguably the most skilled player in NBA history. Let me know in the comments section what are your thoughts on this comparison. Also, let me know how many points Kobe would average in Harden's era and how many points Harden would average in Kobe's era. Make sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.